To change your gender, you have to take really strong drugs, and this is what could hurt yourself besides it being permanent after you take it. This is something in physics they excite a field in order to read a scope of something that they're chasing. The more that they would increase the energy, like TeV, 8 TeV to 9 TeV, they have to increase the luminosity in order to see the difference of its backdrop being something what they would have to take out from one end and the other, crafting out the backdrop as if it's making a frame, with the picture in the middle being the luminosity increase and the TeV jacked up. The same way of changing your gender would be the finished picture inside of the frame made is how physicists search for exotic embodiments. There's a particle zoo of things that are unknown, and in searching for it is like finding something captured within the frame of between the crosshairs and trying to get over the target. The only difference is once they have located whatever they're looking for, they're able to write about it and take notes on it without having it be something that they're stuck with for the rest of their lives. Even if it haunts them, it isn't what they are. But if you're putting yourself in the middle of the frame, then you're an experimental group instead of what an environment would. The more that you cookie cutter out these giant behemoths out of the particle zoo, just because you've got to separate the background and put it back together again, like Humpty Dumpty, remaking him as a Frankenstein, and then subjectively saying we've put the toothpaste back in the bottle, we've got a hell of a product for you. And that product to be a defiant of all the left science of just what was brushed over as we'll figure it out later, now gets legs of, well, it's to curtail this Frankenstein. And then the science of because I told you so gets a all new adherence. It's these hedges that are allowing the smoke to be whiter, where if those hedges weren't there, notice in zooming or panning out, the whiteness disappears. Inverse square law and Brownian motion at its best. And within a year and a half now of democratic ruling, we're in a collapsing world, and then flights being rearranged and then taken off at different times, scrambled about. If you don't have a direct flight, you can expect to be an hour or so late, and it doesn't cost an arm or a leg to Joe Biden. He goes to Delaware every weekend on a personal plane. All these liberal limousine riders, it doesn't cost them an arm and a leg. And so when the hike up of GMO, they're not in, doesn't affect them. They've got their own farm land. And so, what the hell happened here? I can't stress how important it is to know old technology, and if it's just being reused as something that's already been found before. You can use a zip tie for a weed whacker and it works the same. It's not a new invention. The area that atoms occupy are basically an existence of itself. It is within the atom that dire constraints would have it be, where people die fantastic deaths based upon its engineering of its interior. It has scriptings of what is a habitable zone before it goes haywire, just as humans' bodies have conditions that become from underlying to overwhelming. Because when you're at the butt of the joke, the pit that is, and when people have nothing else to lose, they lose everything. And it's part of the reason why I go up and talk to cops so much, is that whenever I find them in odd spots, meaning outside of their vehicle, I go up and talk to them because I don't know what is around. I've seen a fox this morning. I know of jungle cats to be in the county I'm in that get loose because of, well, I guess, poachers. And then there's been snipers 2 blocks behind me of the DEA. And so, you know, it's just a crapshoot when those lights strobe of what the hell is next. It's like we need better systems other than just the current sirens and strobe. So just as there's no question if there's a whole bunch of algae on top of water, that if you dive under there, you might find a crocodile hiding under it. And just as if you would chum up an ocean, you'd be hard-pressed to find there's not a shark about it. As sharks can smell blood in the water from a mile away. But if there's one way of having that on land, where it would be a flood of lights and something as in a collapsing society, or world for that matter, that you would see more and more of the disorientation, not just in the airlines. And so in this inflation, like before it hits and, you know, when it gets going, the trending of the money gambling is going to favor what the bigwigs and fat cats are doing. Well, they're invested in the most dangerous things because those are going to be the dark horses when everything goes under. And so the more that these random money gamblers parrot the fat cat's bidding, that dark horse gets hot heels, and nothing's there to cool it down but the losers who have their assets taken because of the money being printed drowns them. And the reflation is that money that was printed back gets sent to materialize in what the investments of the fat cats and big wigs and money gamblers propped up, and in exchange for gasoline, jacking up the ethanol in gas. And so not only is that going to ruin how much corn is available on the shelves, it's the animals who would feed off the corn their money gets jacked up for the feeding of those animals, and so that's more expensive, despite the gas getting overpopulated with ethanol to be a bit cheaper, which would just be used for political gain, where it was said that the gas president's thinking of making be a gas holiday and giving some ease of it to be a bit cheaper for a little bit. And that's nothing but making more ethanol be inside of it, where you'll see in the return it's just depreciating and reflating the feed for the animals, and then the corn being more expensive, and so that'll go up. And it's basically the same thing as well. You're reading, oh my gosh, we're gonna get a break in the gas. Well, it's just gonna go back up, and the more that there's that deviation, it's how you train a rat. How you train a rat is by the environment. You make it think that it's in danger by throwing it in a toilet, and just before it's about to drown, you grab it out of the toilet and you pet it and calm it down. Once it's calmed down, you throw it into the toilet and you wait for it to drown. But just before it starts to drown, you pick it out of the toilet and you comfort it. And you do that so much until it gains a Stockholm syndrome, where it will trust you with its life. That is the practice of what cutting the price in gas for just a little bit and then bringing it back to what it is. It's called predictive programming, but it's used for qualitative easing.